Hello and welcome back to the island of PandAnt and of course to Microtopia. Where we last left off, we got all the basics up and running as neatly as we possibly could. We have flower collection here and here. We have our breeding happening right here, a little bit of smelting and a little bit of manufacturing, as well as our research and recycling of old ants. And of course, a little bit of scrap metal gathering up here as well, which I think I would like to upgrade with another one over here. But the main goal of today's episode is going to be research. I would like, before we move to the second island, I would like to get a whole bunch of different things unlocked. The first of which could be plant cutting, but I actually want to move more towards the direction of the iron floor tile, get everything as organized as we possibly can before we start expanding too rapidly. So with that being said, I'm going to let this run for a little bit as I set up a little bit of a gathering loop over here, and then we can get that moving. Actually, before we do that, I do want to zoom in onto this tech tree just a little bit here, because I would like to unlock the null trail sooner rather than later. And I know from experience that is only going to cost us 10. Plant cutting only costs us 10. We currently have 20, so that is going to be fantastic. I don't really care that much about the main trail. It doesn't do anything above the null trail. It's basically just a cosmetic upgrade, so I'm not going to worry about that too much just yet until we have way too many research points. But for now, that should do us. And to get this one unlocked to go into fabric, we are going to need to collect some fiber, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. I would, however, like the carry gate, so we might go ahead and do that sooner rather than later. But for right now, we can at the very least unlock this achievement, which is optimizing life, and that will allow us access to the recycler, which we cannot actually build yet as far as I know. I believe that's in... Did I not get that? Oh, I didn't unlock it. But I believe that requires materials from this island anyway, so we're not too concerned about that. In the meantime, I'm going to set up a trail over here, and I'm going to upgrade all of my paths to use the null trails instead. If you don't know, the null trails are basically the same as a hauling trail, except they won't pick up stuff along the way. So it's a good idea to upgrade all your paths that aren't going to be used for hauling to null trails, just so that you don't accidentally pick things up along the way and mess up some important systems later on down the line. So I'll get this all upgraded, and then I'll go ahead and do that metal gathering as well, and we'll be back once we have a few more research points in our pockets. Okay, so we have a new trail over here. This scrap pile currently is not connected to anything, but we're just going to sort of stockpile a little bit of extra material just in case we ever run out and we ever need it. The next thing that I should probably get to is, since we are all about upgrading our science today, we have a lot of old ants on this trail at the moment, and we don't have enough processing power for them. So I'm going to go ahead and add in another combiner, just to make sure that we are processing these ants as quickly and efficiently as possible, because currently we're basically only filling up one before another one comes through, and that is just not good enough for us. So we're going to grab the Elder Trail, extend this out to be there, and come back across, and we'll just remove that little bridge there. Not that they would have used it anyway, but I like to keep things nice and clean, and then of course make sure we go ahead and connect that back up. Now, we are going to have some more throughput through here, and I'm not super happy with this solution, right? Because as you can see here, we have this ant coming onto here, and then this ant is following in directly behind rather than going to another location. So, to fix that problem, I'm going to remove all of these things. I'm also going to shorten this just a touch, and this is how I want to do it instead. I would like to have a counting gate right here, and I will have that go straight down, and then from that counting gate I will add the divider. That way, this means that only one ant can go onto this path at a time. Actually, one ant can go onto this path at a time, but I actually want to make that 4. That way, we should have the ability to have 4 ants along here and 4 ants ready to take their place as soon as they are full and popped. Everyone else will wait down here in a little bit of a line. So we can send you over to there just to make sure that's a little bit more efficient. And that should work out quite nicely. Now, in terms of flowers, we're doing okay. This stockpile here is almost full, so that's fantastic. But this stockpile is lagging behind a little bit, and I think I would just generally like a little bit more flower collecting to be happening. It looks like, yeah, unless we went up here and did something clever, I think it looks like this is our next biggest patch, which is fine because I think I'm going to move all of this somewhere else anyway. So I will go ahead and organize some foraging on these flowers here, get that in a 3rd stockpile, and maybe try and figure out a way to reconfigure these so that they use 3 dispensers rather than 2. So I'll go ahead and do that right about now. So that's all set up. They will all go to that stockpile now. The only thing left to do is go ahead and make sure that these guys are using all of the available stockpiles and these guys are using all of the available stockpiles. But before I get to that, I want to get to at least 50 so we can actually start using the iron floor tiles. So we'll let this run for a little bit and I'll be back in a little bit. Also, sorry, I said in a little bit, but I just remembered that I forgot to change this into combine into inventor. Make sure you do that whenever you place one of these down, otherwise you'll get small ants coming in here and combining into something that you don't want them to combine into. So these ones are all set, and yeah, we'll continue on. Alright, with 50 research points, that will allow us to go ahead and unlock the iron floor tile, which also unlocks the trash can and the timer gate, which is fantastic. We'll be getting both of those a little bit later on. But for right now, I would like to redesign and organize both my main loop and my breeding station. So for the main loop, it should be pretty simple because I built this roughly the same size as one of these foundations. So we can go ahead and throw that down right about there, trying to make sure it's square. These then snap to each other. These use iron plates to build, which thankfully we do have quite a few of. And we can just throw them down something like that. And now we can go ahead and re-drag these corners into where we actually want them to go. So that's going to be absolutely fantastic for my OCD. Everything will now be neatly aligned. So give me a second and I will align all of these and we'll be back in a little bit. Okay, so our center part is a little bit neater. I will go ahead and clean up the rest of this in a second here. But for right now, I want to go ahead and get this up and running in a more efficient manner. So I think I will actually extend this out by another tile here and just do something like that and bring this in and bring that, I don't know, to there. Keep that a little bit tidier. And this is going to be the area where I want my queen. So the easiest way to do this for me is to go ahead and lay down more foundations than you think you're going to need. And if we have a look at this path, it's a little bit inefficient at the moment, right? Because we've got our brood coming out down here and they have to make this long trek up to the main loop. That just doesn't make a ton of sense for me. So at the moment, I'm just going to move everything that we are using here off to the side, just so that I can keep it on hand. We can put that up there, put that down there, put that over there, and make sure we clear out the paths that we have set up already. And we'll also move our ants over to the side as well, just so they don't get in the way. And that should free up quite a nice amount of space for us. I also think I want to move this over a little bit as well. So I'd like that to snap there. And to snap, if I can get it, yeah, that'll be close enough. That to go there, and we can bring this so it's nice and straight. If I can get it to snap, perfect. That'll do for the moment. Probably also snap these in, hold on. Give us a second. Snap you into wood. into there. Perfect. That's a little bit cleaner. So our queen is going to spin around and face the other direction. She is going to lay her eggs that way now. And for that, we are going to have to move these guys. So I think I would like them to come out maybe 2 away from the main track. Not that it really matters all that much, but the first one is going to sit roughly there. And then I would actually like this one to sit at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to line that up as best I can. Hold control to do that, and then I would like this to be as close as it can possibly be to that one there. And I might not have enough room for this. Well, I do. I just have to move stuff over. Give us a second. We'll throw that there. Throw that one. This one can snap. And then hopefully we have enough room for this last one. If I just put it somewhere like that to line it up using the holes. And then I will put it on that tile there. So I'm lining this one up and this one up just so that it looks a little bit neater. And then the queen itself can sit right around there. Now to connect these up, we are just going to simply do a null trail to the middle one and connect it in there. It will not snap to these circles if you have a line here already. So just move it and drag it back. Make sure it's snapped into place. As for the path that our delivery person is going to take, that is going to be a hauling trail, and I'm going to make this as small as physically possible. And when I say as small as physically possible, I really mean it. We are going to drag all of these super close together, even smaller than this, and basically until it unsnaps itself. That's how big I want this to be. I want there to be as little delay as possible when this ant here is moving around that circle. And then for our dispensers, we are basically going to do the same thing, except I'm going to upgrade this a little bit. So I'm going to have, if I can figure out a layout here, probably something like that, and then grab that third one here, grab a dispenser for you, throw that there. That will probably work. I probably should have thrown another one in. So I'm going to have 2 ants feeding our queen rather than just the one. So I'll make sure to grab a dispenser from each one of these stockpiles. Throw that there and grab this one and throw that there. That should work. And then we can grab 2 hauling trails and basically do the exact same thing. So like that. And then we just make these as small as humanly possible as well. So dragging these in, it's precise. If you zoom in as far as you can, you'll get even more control and they'll snap less easily. That should be connected to all 3 dispensers. As you can see, the arrows pointing in, as well as the queen's mouth, which is exactly what we want to see. And then we'll do the exact same thing down here. I'll move this one first because that's probably going to be easier to see. Throw that in there. And I understand this is a little bit of a convoluted process. Whoops. I wish there was an undo button. I'll just remove it and redraw it. Going in this way, I think. Not that it really matters that much. Put you into the middle there. There and there. That'll do. They're all connected. Everything's connected to the queen's mouth. And then we can drag one of these ants into there. And we need to find another one of our sentry ants. So we currently have 2 working on the queen, 1 on this flower deposit down here, which I want to keep on that flower deposit. And the other one, I believe, is gathering scrap metal. So I don't actually want you doing that. You're actually not on the path at all, which is not fantastic. You get on the path. Is everyone else on the path? I hope so. Anyway, I need you to drop off that iron that you've got currently in your mouth. So we'll wait for that to drop. And then we'll grab you, send you all the way down on a little bit of a journey right through here and to down here and into, hopefully, into there. That should work out nicely. Let me just quickly double check everyone else is on a line down here. Select all the ants, make sure they're all moving, no one's standing still. That is a fantastic way to check that. All right, that's good. So this line is now no longer necessary at all. And the other thing that is not necessary is these foundations, right? This isn't going to change for the most part. And if it does, we can always lay down more. So to save ourselves on our iron plates, of which we only have 18 left, we can just remove these foundations. Nothing is going to change in here. It's just going to save us on materials. Everything is nicely laid out, and that is going to be fantastic. So I want you to quickly take a note on how often this queen is currently feeding. It's like now, yeah, it was slower. Now it's like dung, 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 right? So that is feeding our queen just that little bit quicker. We are still delivering ants to the main loop, and that is all absolutely fantastic. Let's quickly check on our research, make sure everything is working down here, and it looks like it is. We have plenty of energy, although we do need to upgrade these as well to be drawing from this stockpile, and that's going to be a little bit trickier than I think I originally anticipated. But we can probably do something like you there, and then rotate these around to be there and there, just so that we're definitely always grabbing something. And the other thing that we can do to increase our research is actually throw 2 ants on each of these, and that will make the research go just that little bit quicker. I think that's going to be a good little bonus for us. You're also not on a trail. Anyone else not moving since I moved all those trails around? No, I think that was the only one. I think we're good. So we now have 2 ants on each of these trails. That's going to be fantastic. They should be grabbing from all of the stockpiles. They might get hung up on each other every now and then, but overall this is going to be improved a little bit. And I'm pretty happy with that. So the next thing that I want to unlock is actually the trash can, because at the moment we aren't recycling these guys because they often are holding an item when they get old, and we can't really guarantee that they're not going to be holding anything. So for that, we unlock the trash can. And the trash can is going to sit right about there, just on the entrance to this loop, which goes to our combiners, right? And the thing about the trash can is it only works if you have a hauling path connected to it, right? So we need to upgrade this little bit of track to a hauling path to make sure that our ants will actually throw the things they're holding out before they enter that loop. So now we can go ahead and grab ourselves our old gates, and I'm going to throw them, I don't know, directly out this way and directly out this way. And then they can sort of, I don't know, connect in the middle somewhere. And we can grab our elder trail and basically just bring that straight into this, which is already feeding into that loop. And now we can have a little bit of a look here, wait for someone to get old, and I'll show you exactly how that trash can works, assuming they're holding an item when they leave. Just like this. So we'll follow this guy along. You can see he is holding an energy ball at the moment. That means he's not going to be allowed to be in the combiners, but he's going to pass through this trash can, throw out his energy ball, and then he can go ahead and get combined effectively. Absolutely perfect. We're now recycling more ants than we were before, thus speeding up the production of our inventors, speeding up the production of basically, well, the efficiency of our entire base. So that is good to know. We also need to make sure every now and then we are checking on these loops, making sure they are still gathering all of the things that we want them to gather. That should be fine. I don't think I can reach... Oh, I can actually. That's nice. Can I reach this one? That's going to be a good question. Maybe if I throw a thing in here and do something like... No, it's too thick. That's unfortunate. But having this here is not bad. So having... That was unintentional. But having this pass by the scrap iron twice means they'll gather things from here, throw it in here, then gather another thing from over here, come around, and then throw it back in over here. So that is a way to basically cut this loop in half and have your iron gathering efforts be that little bit more efficient. Speaking of efficiency, this is not efficient at all because we no longer need to be gathering from over here. So we'll just quickly readjust this path to make sure that it is exactly what we need it to be. As soon as an ant moves out of the way, we can then do that, and that should be a lot more efficient as well. And you can see our research is coming in thick and strong now. So what should we get next? That is the question. Well, we can't get fiber yet. Well, we can, but we're not. To get fiber efficiently, I would like to unlock the cast gate. And that is going to require unlocking the assembler, unlocking the drone, and then we can get ourselves the cast gate and the stockpile gate as well. We also have 75 ants, so we can achieve that, which unlocks the floral island scanner and the facility, neither of which we need yet, but that is good to note. So the next things I'll probably unlock is larvae storage and the timer gate, and that should be pretty good. Or we could go up here and try and unlock the slinger, which is also a very helpful tool. But we now have the cast gate, so we can go ahead and start gathering ourselves some fiber. To do that, we use the plant cutting path, and I like to just basically do a bit of a square, something like, I don't know, something like this, something like that, something like that. We're not going to need a ton of fiber early on. I'd like this to be somewhat square. And we'll throw down a storage, basically set this up the same way we would set up anything else. We'll grab ourselves an old gate that can come off here and loop back down into our setup. Somewhere like this might be good, straight into the back. That'll work out. Now, to feed this loop, normal ants, our normal baby ants, right, can't do tree cutting. Only our worker ants can do plant cutting. So, in order to make this work, we're going to grab ourselves a foundation just so that we can build this all nice and neatly. We're going to grab our trail and we're going to grab our cast gate, right? And this cast gate is basically going to do a nice little loop. So if we have enter if from cast worker, if they're a worker, they'll take us a quick little detour, come up here and then go back if they can't get any further. And what is the condition to make them go further? Well, that's basically just a counter gate, right? So we want a specific number of old ants, well, not old ants, but worker ants up cutting this fiber. So to do that, this is the little setup that we use. And then from there, we can just take a null trail, run it right alongside our elder trail, somewhere there, make it look nice, like so. And that is basically that set up. So honestly, we're not going to need that much, so I'm probably just going to have 2 on there for now. We'll wait for an old worker ant to come along and see how this works. But you can see none of our little small worker ants are going onto this trail, so they are not affecting that system. We can also now remove that foundation, and we have our first worker ant here. They will come in, they will go in there because there is room. This other one will come in, go in there because there is room, and then we'll wait for one more just to show you how this works when there is no more room, which should be any second now. They should come up, they'll enter this first one, get turned away by the counter gate, and go back to the main loop. So that is how I set that up, and yeah, that is going to be absolutely fantastic. We are getting research very, very quickly. So I'm going to let this run for a little bit longer while we get all this research out of the way, and we'll be back in a little bit. First thing we'll unlock is the timer gate. Then we will unlock larvae storage. And before we continue on with that, we have a little bit of a problem here. All of these ants somehow got themselves some scrap metal. And, I know why. This trash can is in the wrong spot. These guys are coming down here and bypassing this. So we actually need to put this in here. And then we can go ahead and remove that hauling path. Replace it with this one, which I need to rearrange some of this stuff. So this can come back a little bit. We'll get that hauling path into there. That'll work out much better. And then we'll get the elder trail and reconnect this back up. And that should solve that problem. But you can see these guys don't enter these buildings if they're holding things, right? So to get that to work, we can just basically say anyone who is holding stuff can go outside this trail and, you know, dump all their stuff off. It looks like we did lose a few ants in that process, but, you know, it is what it is. It's not the biggest deal in the world. So we're still waiting on some research. In the meantime, is there anything that I really want to set up? No, I think for now, I think I'll just wait on research and then we'll develop everything together. So it looks like our stockpile is full. Maybe I'll change my mind. maybe it is time to start moving our manufacturing to a more suitable location. So I think, honestly, I think I would like to do something like this. So we'll throw those up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is going to make our main loop a lot bigger, but I think it's going to be worth it. So I'm going to not click that. Drag this out. Drag a point to there. Drag this down all the way to the bottom. Drag this out and do the exact same thing up here. If I can, we'll get that. Drag this out to the top. Drag this out to the top. So that just expands our main loop. Now, it looks like we are going to have to move where this is coming off. And I honestly think coming off the top would probably be a better solution. So let's go ahead and set that up real quick. That's been moved over. And now what I'm thinking is we can do some of our smelting stuff in this section here. And we can start our processing probably down here, to be honest. I think that is going to work out the best. So let's set up, well, we should probably do smelting first, actually. And which direction do I want this to go? Probably up, because eventually we will remove this and we can have it extend all the way up there. So I'm going to throw a couple of foundations down here and we'll move our scrap metal smelting up to here. To do that, I would like to have the flinger, which we don't have yet, and we are a little bit far away from getting. I believe it's locked behind... No, I think it's locked behind the facility. If we click on this, yeah, we need resin and then casing and then slinger. So that's, I think, going to cost us 200 total. But that's fine. We can start building this setup and work from there. So let's go ahead and start laying this out, and we'll be back in a little bit. One of the problems we're starting to have is we are using up our energy as fast as we are producing it, which is fine. We're not really struggling in terms of energy. We've got 110 population, which, as you can see by our main loop, is way more than we actually need. But if you ever don't want more flowers in your locations, ever want more like flower collecting areas in different locations, a little trick that you can do is you can grab some stockpiles, because they're free, and you can remove flowers across the map that you won't use. So we can go ahead and basically click on all of these flowers and delete them. We'll leave the stockpiles there just so that they don't regrow, because that is one of the features of the game. I just want all of them to be the same. Thank you. And we will remove all of the flowers that we don't think we'll use in the long run. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow the flowers to regrow in, hopefully, a new location. And hopefully that location is exactly where we want them. Now, there is another way to do this where you fill the entire map with foundations, but that is a little bit extreme for me and takes a little bit too long and doesn't look very good and requires a lot of metal. Even though you don't technically need the metal in your inventory to place the foundations down, it basically means you've got 0 iron plates forever, which I don't like. So I prefer using the stockpile method, getting rid of those flowers, and hopefully they'll regrow both here, here, and over here, increasing the yield that we get from these 3 different locations, right? That's the general plan. So I'm going to continue on. We will unlock resin next and casting after that, and we'll be back as soon as we have the slingers unlocked. While we're waiting on that, one other thing that you can do to make your paths more efficient before you unlock the slingers is jump into your trails and unlock... Never mind, we don't have it yet. I was going to say use the carry gate, but we also haven't unlocked that yet, so please ignore. We will then unlock the casting, casing, sorry. We won't use either of these yet. I don't actually think we can make either of these yet, but we need to unlock them in order to progress to the slinger, which is next and which costs us 100 inventor points. And I don't know if you remember what this looked like before, but we definitely have more flowers because I just saw these 3 grow here. These 2 grew out here. Yeah, so we can adjust this so it hopefully produces more. And I'm going to use another little trick to optimize this layout. The first thing I'm going to do is remove absolutely everything from this location so we can get a nice clean new path. I'm going to move the stockpile out of the way and I'm going to grab the foraging trail. Now, what I'm looking for here is somewhat of a nice path that gets a decent chunk of these flowers. I would also like to include these guys, come back down here and go to, say, around there. Then we can move the stockpile to be right about here. And you can see with this, I think that arrow is for the stockpile. It might not be. How far do we need to move that? There we go. If I move this in here, can I still get all of those things? There. Perfect. And if we highlight that, we're still getting all of those flowers. And that just basically cuts this loop in half. And then we can go ahead with our other one and grab the rest of the flowers, right? Makes sense? We go down here, and back to these. I think we've got that one already. Let's just double check. Yep, that is all of the flowers. And that basically gives us 2 smaller paths that are going to be more efficient for our ants to run. Now, the only problem with this is this flower potentially is going to cause problems when we go in with our old gate. Now, to fix that, we could make the this loop go in the opposite direction, and I think that is exactly what I'm going to do. So I'm just going to retrace this path in the opposite direction. Redrawing paths, by the way, is an easy way to reverse their direction. I missed one. This needs to get removed and redrawn. As long as you don't miss any points, that is an easy way to get that done. And yeah, that's connecting to everything. And honestly, I'm going to have to do the exact same thing with the other one as well. So go backwards on your path and that will reverse the direction. That way we have nice clean areas after our stockpile to put our old gates. So we're going to throw one down there and one down there. And we can go ahead with our elder trail and just connect these up to the main path. I'm going to remove this counter gate for the moment. We'll redraw that in a second. That can go, I don't know, right about there. Seems decent to me. And we'll grab another elder trail that basically just wraps around and joins in with the other one. Just like so. Now, of course, we do still need to stock these lines with ants. So we'll go back in with our counter gates. And I'll probably do one either side of this elder trail. I think that will look the best. Something like that. In with our null path, one straight up to this path here. If I can get it to go close but not touch. Perfect. And another one from here. Run it up, across, and in. Just like so. Then, of course, we can go ahead and set these to lower values. So I'm thinking, I don't know, 8 ants per should be enough to keep that stocked. And we'll see whether or not we start getting a stockpile here, because currently we are not stockpiling any energy whatsoever. We're using everything up as soon as it is coming in. Of course, we could do the exact same thing down here. It looks like we might need to, because a lot of these flowers down here are not being harvested. And there is a pretty easy split right down the middle of these, but we're actually not grabbing those flowers, which is half of the problem. If we do that and that, I believe that grabs all of them. And look, the flowers are growing back in. Kind of messing up my plans, to be honest, but they are growing back in. I don't think I'll worry about that bottom one. They should be all fine, and that should hopefully be enough. Let's just quickly double check how many we've got coming down here. Let's increase that to 16. We have the ants to do it, so I'm not too concerned about that. We are continuing with our research, and you can see our little research station down here is working absolutely fantastically. Looks like we had a flower grow on the middle of that, but it is what it is. we're not going to be too concerned about that. So I'll be back once we have 100 knowledge. We'll check on how our energy is doing, and we will unlock the slinger. All right, so this over here is now all used up. So these ants can all go back. And I know I said I was going to come back when we had 100, but, you know, it didn't happen out. It didn't work that way. So we can go ahead and remove this path, and we'll scooch that way over there for the moment. Remove this elder trail and grab our ants and move them back to where they need to be, which is our main loop. Got a couple of stragglers out here as well. But the main reason I wanted to pause and show you this is because you can actually take a stockpile that is full or has anything on it and send that inventory to another one. So this is now 100% full. This one is still filling up just with this last little bit in here. So it looks like we're gonna have to set up a brand new path. I'll go ahead and do that off camera. You guys know how that works by now. I think we had a couple, yeah, look at this down here. This is where we're gonna be doing that. And we'll come back once we get to 100 inventor points. And with 100 inventor points in the bank, we can now go ahead and unlock the slinger. And unlike what you would think, it doesn't use resin or casing. It is using just plain iron and screws. So we can go ahead and finish out our foundry over here. And the way that I would like this to work is, you might have already guessed, is we have a slinger for each of these trails so that our ants can just hang out and basically stay on this trail the entire time. You can see each of these does connect to the slinger, so they'll go from the dispenser to the foundry to the slinger. We need to also make sure that we choose that these are smelting iron, even though they won't ever have access to anything else. It's generally just good practice to do. And then we need to figure out where all our paths are going to go. So honestly, this is a little bit trickier, right? Because we have these slingers in the way and we need to route our ants around them. So we're going to need some kind of way to split our ants up. And I honestly think dividers are going to be the best choice. But to get that started, I am going to see if I can do trails from a couple of different locations. And it looks like I can. So I want the trails to start out here, go into there, just like so, like that. And then we'll grab ourselves a divider from back here, and we'll go to each one of these points. That should spread out our ants quite nicely and have one go to each of those paths. Now, the only thing left to do is to add our old gates, which is going to also be a little bit of a pain, but I think we can route them probably into there and then out. Makes the most sense to me. So we'll go there, 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 there. And look, this is definitely a little bit of a convoluted system, especially for just smelting iron. But once we get into smelting other things, I think this is going to be worthwhile. So, and then we can just connect all these elder trails up to each other. I clicked too many times, and straight into our loop, which will jiggle around just to make sure it is correct. And that should work out nicely. Now we just need to make sure that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ants in here at all times, and we should be good to go. So that's pretty simple. We use a nice little counter gate, add into there, and then we use a null trail from there to our divider, set this to 7, and we should be ready to rock and roll. And last but not least is our stockpile, which is going to, for now, sit right around there. Not connected to anything because all of these slingers are going to go directly into that stockpile. But we're actually not going to use this stockpile. I've just realized. We are going to move this stockpile over and use it because it is already connected to all of the things that need metal, right? So we are going to click on each of these slingers. Potentially a huge waste of screws, but you know, it is what it is. We're about to make more. And that is our smelting system all set up. We can now go ahead and delete these ones, which will give us a whole bunch of materials back. Send these ants back onto our main path, if I can get them there. delete this and delete the trail that is leading into that, saving us a ton of room. And now, because we have this all built out and nothing here is going to change, we can go ahead and get rid of those floor tiles as well, saving us even more resources. Now, the problem is we only have 8 screws left, so I want to start setting up some manufacturing down here to utilize this newly increased production of, what is this? Iron. One thing to note too is sometimes your other stockpiles will be full and they'll just randomly throw onto one of the stockpiles that you built somewhere else. So that is something to keep in mind, because this is almost full and this is currently full. So there really isn't much we can do about that. We do need to move these ants back off the path though, because this is now officially complete. We can send them all the way back down there and remove these ones as well. Later on, we will get larger stockpiles and ways to manage our stockpiles just that little bit better. But for right now, I'm going to throw our spare stockpiles just right below the queen so we can remember where they are. I'll also throw this one down because it does have stuff on it. One thing you can do if you don't want anything to go to these stockpiles is to set it to something that you don't have. Like, we're not going to have resin for a while, so I could set it to resin. But I'm just going to leave them and we'll deal with it as it comes up. Hopefully none of these other ones got too many resources on them. And then we can just go ahead and remove this trail as well, because it is no longer necessary. Make sure we remove all of the little segments and that should be good to go. And I like to just clean up these little endpoints where they connect as well, to make sure that we don't have any leftover things that we don't know what they're for, right? Make sense? Cool. Next up is going to be manufacturing more steel plates and more screws, because currently we only have 1 set up for screws and 2 set up for steel plates. That is not going to be enough in the long run, so let's go ahead and set that up real quick. I'll build it out and then explain how it works once we come back. Okay, so this is my screw layout. I did that first. Why are you not doing things? You should have access to that. You should have access. That should be set up. Maybe if I change this to screws, it'll work. There we go. So this is my screw setup. Currently we only have 1 because we don't have enough screws to make this happen. But as we get more screws, all I need to do is add new dividers into each of these trails, and that should work out nicely. Let's just quickly double check on our forging down here, and it looks like something has gone wrong. Something has definitely gone wrong, because we have 2 ants on here, 2 ants on here, and I don't know why that would be the case. Let's send them out and back in and see what happens. They shouldn't be on there. And well, you guys shouldn't come on here. We're full. We're full. This setup should work in theory. Yeah, no, you shouldn't be on here either. Hopefully you come down and go into here. Sometimes these systems take a little bit to figure themselves out. If I can... Problem with things like this is they can get very, very tight. And there we go. That should be all of them. Hopefully this reset, and when people come out, they go back onto the right ones. They might not. We might have to redesign this at some point. If you guys have a better idea of how to design this, I would love to hear it down below in the comments. We could also, I think, yeah, that might be a better idea. We could also just do this with counter gates and have this be a loop that comes out. Yeah, let's do that, because this clearly isn't working. So let's do a quick erase on all of that. Grab ourselves another foundation so that we can lay this out properly. And then we'll grab ourselves our trail and our counter gate. And the problem is we might need 1 more square. We might need 1 more square to make this work, because I don't know if we can stack counter gates or not. Let's try it and see what happens. So we'll go 1 to there, 1 to there, 1 to there, 1 to there, one to there, one to there, and one to there. And then in terms of making them split off of this, we'll grab ourselves a counter gate to make them turn. And then we'll grab ourselves a null trail into that counter gate, come back down and leave again. But that's going to make that counter gate not work. Okay, instead we can remove, well, actually we can just remove that. That works. And then make that a null trail. And they'll come up here, check whether or not these are all full, which currently they should be. Let's just check that this works by sending one of these guys out and away. So let's say someone got old. Someone else should hopefully come in and replace them. And it looks like they do. Looks like it's working perfectly. Awesome. All right, that's fine. That works out. Nice, compact little solution there. We're getting plenty of iron in. Looks like this one is almost ready to go, but we need to do the exact same thing over here, right? We just need to say, you go away, you go away. And we can actually do the counter gates directly from this, which might even be easier. And we'll say one into there, and then when we get enough screws to unlock this second slinger, we can go ahead and add them in there. To save screws as well, we could potentially utilize these slingers for 2 of these machines, which might not be a bad idea. Let me just see how well that works. If we move that over there, move you to there, and bring you into the middle somewhere there, we might need to slightly increase where this goes to, but that is probably a decent idea. It'll just depend on how slow this slinger is going to be. And I want it to be right smack bang in the middle, please. Like that. And then we can grab ourselves another counter gate to this one. And that will get another ant working on screws, so we can start building this up a little bit quicker. I think this is going to be fine, but I'm just going to let this run for a little bit and check that everything is working correctly. So it slowed him down a little bit on that first one, but when they finish now, they should be at a decent offset where they don't interrupt each other. So I'll keep an eye on this for a little bit longer and we'll see what happens. He goes in and you should finish right about now, and you go in. Yeah, that's perfect. All right, so I'm going to adjust this. We'll get rid of you and get rid of, well, yeah, we'll get rid of you. We'll move you over. You can go over by 2, I believe it was. That still connects. No, it was just by 1. Like that. And then you go directly in the middle of those. Like so. And then we just adjust these just enough to connect to that slinger, and then attach the slinger to there. And since we have this other one here, we may as well go ahead and extend this out to be 6 rather than 5. I think that's going to work out just that little bit better. So we'll grab ourselves some production. Another workshop goes directly in there. We find out where we're drawing this from, grab this, place ourselves down a dispenser, which will go there, I believe. Grab you, throw you directly in the middle. Make sure not to rotate you first. Directly in the middle, double click, and we can go ahead and set up this other trail. So for these, this guy actually wants to go this way, and we'll just drag this right in, and make sure it connects to the slinger. Drag this out till it connects to the slinger. Right about there. And then we just need another old gate from this one up to here and into there. And that should be functional. We just need to make sure this is built, which is currently not. That one needs to be assigned to there, and we can grab ourselves some more counter gates and start ramping up this production with currently 4 ants going along these paths at the moment. And yeah, these guys are working much more efficiently now. Much more efficiently. I think this path should technically be reversed, but it's not really going to make that much of a difference. We are just producing screws here, and this should be done in no time. So I'll come back once this is finished. Should probably just check that we don't have inventors lined up over here. That is all done. We can go ahead and grab our last 2 counter gates to go in there and to go in there. And that is screw production done and dusted. Now, I actually want to go ahead, well, actually, this is screws, right? And it's not currently connected to anything, so we can just go ahead and send its inventory over there. Delete you, and delete you. That'll send all of that stuff back to where it needs to be. Get that and remove the path for our old screw production. Make sure we're still collecting all of that sweet, sweet science. And I'll go ahead and do the exact same thing for our iron plates. So we'll be back in a little bit. And that is iron plate production and screw production all complete. We can go ahead and send the inventory over to here. Remove everything that is currently in this location, send these ants back onto the main path, check that they're not carrying anything, and go ahead and remove all of these paths here to make sure that is all working, and double check there are no stragglers. And of course, collect our precious, precious science. So that is a much cleaner setup in my opinion. And now we can go in and remove these tiles here, just so that we're not wasting all of those nice iron plates. And that should work out quite nicely. We have plenty of raw materials. Our energy has actually gone up a little bit, but that could be because we've had guys sitting on these. As you can see, we have quite the backlog of inventors here, but we will be dealing with that very, very soon. You can see a few more flowers in these locations. We probably need to go around again and clear out the map. As you can see, some are still popping up in different locations. But we can probably go ahead and open the tech tree and see what else we can unlock. We have the stockpile gate, which is absolutely something that I want. We have the small digger ant, which is also something that I want. We can't get mine colony yet, but we can unlock mining. The big eraser is something that is somewhat useful every now and then, but I think I'm going to save the rest for now. We don't really need anything else on these paths. At this point, we want to start working towards fabric and getting to the next island, which is going to be in the very, very next episode. I hope you guys are enjoying this series. This is our colony so far. I think it's going quite well. If you like the playstyle of me organizing everything super meticulously, please do let me know down in the comments below. If you guys are enjoying the series, make sure to go ahead and subscribe, leave a like and a comment for the sake of engagement. But until next time, happy building, happy colonizing. Bye guys.